Reader Mail.
Newly number 1.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Squared Reader Mail. I am your host. Screwed that one up. Anyway, I'm your host, Brett, back and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you guys the very first new formatted Reader Mail. So if this is your first episode to this podcast, period, it's a little weird. You might want to go back to episode 1 of Triangle Squared because this is going to be somewhat confusing maybe to new people. But this is our Reader
All the way to
Mail
episode
entry.
1?
I'm talking about for Triangle Squared.
I mean, okay.
Because they're going to think, oh, is this a new podcast? Episode 1. So then they're like, oh, yeah, that might be. Yeah. So for those that don't know, we are a PlayStation podcast. We have an episode come out every Monday at 10 a.m. Central Time. No, 10 a.m. PST. 10 noon Central Time. And this is what we used to do.
You're still in my line, so.
I'm still in. This Reader Mail is my thing.
Go ahead.
I'm taking the helms. We used to do a segment in those shows called Reader Mail where we'd answer you guys' questions from Twitter, Facebook, and we decided to make it on a separate show. So that's what this is. It allows our normal episodes to be a tad bit longer. A little bit of a disclaimer. This is a little bit looser than our other episodes where we try to maintain a somewhat professional profile. And this is going to be a little more T for teen instead of an E for everyone.
This might swing a little NSFW every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then. So if you have kids, just be sure to kind of explain to them what the words we use are, or not have them in the room.
Well, you see, son, penis is.
No, that's a biological term. I'm talking about more vulgar things. Just in case it comes up. I doubt it's going to come up. I try not to swear on camera regardless. But who knows? We're a little bit more looser than normal. But yeah, if you ever want to hear your question answered on Reader Mail, we're doing things a little bit differently this week. We are taking some of the ones from Facebook past, what was it?
The 7th.
The 7th of January. And we are pushing those into a vault, for lack of better terms, to line up with our schedules a little bit better in terms of recording. We're just going to record this every other week after we record Triangle Squared. So that way we may have some cool Patreon incentives for those guys that want it early, but we also will have free time just in case for whatever reason there is bad juju around Reader Mail. The last 2 times we've recorded Reader Mail, something's messed up. So this is going to give us 5 days in between to be able to still get it out on time, whether it's a technical problem, scheduling problem. It's going to make it easier for everyone. So if you are one of the ones that asked a question on Facebook and you don't hear answered here, don't worry, it's going to be in the next episode. We just kind of have to make a cutoff point in order to play catch up in a way, or in order to schedule it out.
And as soon as basically as soon as this episode rolls out, the next episode that comes on is going to be caught up. Now, of course, what that means with us changing it to where we've been doing it technically pretty. Look, Saul's being fancy. We've been doing it a little, honestly, too close to the line.
Just because we both, for those that don't know, we both work like full-time 45-hour-a-week jobs. And we, Brett has a family. I have a fiance, so we have plans and stuff. But like, just to make this more consistent for our lives and yours, that way you know that there won't ever be an episode missed to the best of our abilities. Now, now there should be no hiccups made at all. Because
just in the realm of being as completely clear as possible on this, and transparent. We are literally recording this Thursday. This is the day before this is supposed to go live. Yeah. So in these situations, if something were to happen, and we hope that it doesn't, but if something were to happen, we would be screwed and we wouldn't be able to get it up on time for you. Moving it up to when we record afterwards fits better with our schedule. It's already a day we plan to record. And it also helps us be able to go, okay, let's just say that it did mess up and for some reason we weren't able to get it. We still have Monday, Tuesday, whatever, as schedule permits for us to be able to record it and get it out. So that does mean that when you ask a question, if the question is asked on the week of a podcast release, that question will be answered on the next podcast always.
And you will see a Twitter post. It will not only go up on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Technically, it's going to go up on Monday and be retweeted on Wednesdays and Fridays, but it's also going to be pinned to our Twitter. So you guys, all you have to do is go to that Twitter. You can go any day of the week, any hour, and ask a question on there. It will make it onto the show. The same goes for YouTube comments. If you have a question you want answered, ask it in the YouTube comments. And if we like the question enough, right now for just like, I don't want to say safety measures, but like more future proofing, if you see a question you asked liked on YouTube, that means they're going to answer it.
Hearted,
obviously,
whatever.
yeah. Obviously, we can't get to every single question that gets asked on YouTube. And I feel like the day I invite someone to ask us questions on YouTube, we're going to get a million questions from random sources, and some of them are going to be jokes, some of them are going to be serious. So that way, that's kind of a disclaimer to know, like, if you're going to like ask a troll question, you're kind of wasting your time because it's not going to be even considered to be asked.
I think we're going to stop doing this at the beginning of every episode, by the way. It's just kind of how we're trying to get into this transition piece.
Reprogramming.
And since this is the first episode, this is going to be the last time that we kind of utilize it as a time to show for people who are transitioning over to this. And of course, the other part of it is that the new format is that used to, it was cleaning up any reader mail that was not addressed in the episodes of the podcast when we had the reader mail segment in the podcast, and it was monthly. Now we're going to be doing it bi-weekly with none being in the main podcast, which keeps the podcast a little more on focus and on schedule of what's going on, and gives us time to further elaborate and not feel stretched for time because we lost too much time on a question that was just really good. And it makes these a little more fun and loose and kick back to do. And it's just a good separation. I think it makes sense to do. But we will be switching over to bi-weekly, like I said. So we'll have double the episodes technically as far as reader mail goes than we would have. But you know what? Without further ado, let's go ahead and hop straight into it. Saul, what's our first question?
At their full strength, who would want to fight between Cloud and Zach? Coming from our good boy Josh.
Okay, so for anybody who's weird and just doesn't know who we're talking about here, Final Fantasy VII, Cloud and Zach are both characters from there. Cloud Strife, Zach. Oh, Lord. What's Zach's name? I know it. Why am I...
Jones.
Oh, hold on. Zach Fair? That sounds right.
That's it, yeah. Zach Hare.
Zach Fair. Anyway, so, that's a great question. I'm going to say
honestly,
this is a completely terrible answer because it's coming from a complete stance of
fanboyism. It's going to be Zach.
It's going to be Zach.
I'm going to answer Cloud, even though I like Zach more because I know Cloud is technically more stronger than Zach, because Zach... Never mind. No, not going to say spoilers just in case, but there's a reason he's not in 7. Our boy didn't have time to gather potential. But I feel like he would have been stronger than Cloud if he had the same amount of training and time. And
if events didn't go so unfortunate for him.
Yeah. So
look, this is what I'm going to say. The reason that I'm a little bit on the fence of it is that pretty much all of Cloud's sense of self,
bless me.
Without going too far, which I think is really kind of dumb to go into spoiler territory at this point, I'm just going to say this.
Just in case it ever gets remade, I don't want to do somebody the disservice.
Every bit of what Cloud has is not due to Cloud. Cloud's memories and all these weird things are not necessarily his own.
Yeah, and I think most people that know Cloud will know that.
Yep.
Let's see. Why don't you take the next one?
Okay, I'm going to pull one from the Facebook. Like we said, if you asked it on the 7th or before the 7th, we will go ahead and get around to it.
All questions will be answered, though. I want to stress that no, do not worry. If you ask us questions on it, if the questions you asked after the 7th, they're going to get answered next week, or 2 weeks from now. So.
Exactly. All right. The question from Facebook shall be, as I scrolled around stupidly, Mr. Liam asks, is Brett sad that he died in a cage aboard our sinking ship? I played Sea of Thieves with Blake and Liam the other night, and they both voted at the very end of the night to put me into the cage, the
prisoner's cage,
the galley or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, and then they sank the ship, and I was just stuck in the cage in a sinking ship. So yeah, it was. I'm not sad. It was actually kind of fun and freeing. So I appreciate that, though. I like that he just kind of stood there and waved and then just swam away as I was dying. I like to imagine that's exactly what my real friends would do.
Yeah. So. I have a question from Twitter from Kiki. I think and he asked one on YouTube, but I think they're relatively the same question. But his question is, y'all probably are tired of Kingdom Hearts questions. No, bring them on. I love Kingdom Hearts. Do you guys think the next game in the new Kingdom Hearts saga will have as much hype behind it like Kingdom Hearts 3 had, or will it die down and just be meh since it took so long for Nomura to finish the Dark Seeker saga? I myself am exhausted with this series, but part 2 of this question is, do you believe that the hype for Kingdom Hearts is going to grow as the next saga revealed, or do you believe it's going to die down after the Dark Seeker saga concludes as its fan base is over? It's essentially pretty much the same question.
It's yeah, it is.
I will say right off the bat, though, I am exhausted with this series in a way. I'm excited to finish it, but I'm not I'm not really looking forward to the time after, because I feel like even though this entire like last 13 years of like it supposedly not been in development but coming out.
You mean between
two and three? Yeah.
Which I really, every time someone says that, I have to interject with, that's just not fair, because when you word it like that, for someone who just doesn't know any different about Kingdom Hearts and maybe is just now coming into it, it acts like there literally has not been a major release in the franchise.
The game, right? Well, I'm talking about in terms of like
12
us,
years.
Like us almost knowing about it, because the way 2 ended, it's like there's not going to be answered.
Which
and back then, too, the only portable game was Chain of Memories.
Yeah.
And that's even after 2.
And Chain of Memories.
No, it's not.
It came out before 2 did.
Yeah, that's right.
And it takes place before 2.
Right.
But essentially what ends up happening with that is, I get that there was no way for us to tell at the moment that there was going to be 2 mainline entries that would come out on 2 different handhelds.
But we have
being PSP and 3DS.
We have been hearing about it for the better part of 8 years now.
Kingdom Hearts 3?
Yeah.
We've been hearing about Kingdom Hearts 3 since 2013. So that's fair.
I'll say, well, that's technically 6 years.
Yeah, and that's fair enough.
But it feels like longer than that. But yeah, I'm not so much... Like, I'm looking forward to ending the series. I'm looking forward to getting answers. Something tells me, though, that in the back of my mind, there's so much I have questions for. I really hope they all get answered. I don't want stuff to go unanswered.
Okay, so a couple of things, and then I'm going to give my answer. But this is just, it's an interesting question that focuses around a day where at work I just literally had a bunch of Kingdom Hearts lore stuff on, because I started thinking to myself about Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, wait a minute. There's things that I knew that I hadn't pieced together in the right way. So like one of the things I thought about is in Dream Drop Distance, it's revealed that
whoa.
Hold on, this is just real light. It's not enough to be completely spoiler. And if you don't understand,
I wouldn't talk about any of this right now.
Well, this is just literally
there are people playing through the games right now before the game comes out.
This is entire speculation, and it has nothing to do. Well, whatever. I don't really think that's fair. Because we've already talked about enough. But look, fine. What I'll say is, I was thinking about stuff that leads to a theory that I will talk to you about off camera that I think is pretty interesting. And technically, I put it in the Discord. So if you've been on the Discord, you know what it was. Is it in the Kingdom Hearts channel? Yes.
That's muted.
Okay. So I will tell you, because it's not going to be anything that spoils 3. It's literally a theory that has to do with all the previous games. Right. That's it. Anyway, so leading into that, I started being like, well, what else do I know that I haven't pieced together, because it was given to me in slices of games that I didn't realize when I started thinking about them all together. So I started looking up different things, and the main thing I wanted to look up was the whole Key, Unchained Key, and then Union Cross, the PC game that was a little like Flash game that came into a mobile game as a remake / remaster /
and then the sequel,
and then the Union Cross, which was the full on. So I looked into that, and somebody went into what all that was, and it interwove some of the stuff I already knew from back cover, and what I learned in that was like, oh, if you just look and you actually take, and Kiki's been saying this for like a good part of 2 weeks or so now, the series is complicated to think about when you've played each of the games apart from each other over the years, and it kind of be like, well, it's a little complicated, but then when you literally just pull back and look at everything and just slowly and like just look at everything and just start pushing it together and looking at it in that sense, it actually makes a ton of sense, and it's not that complicated. But it's only when you have all the pieces in one easy puzzle.
Right.
I feel like people who are playing 1.5, 2.5, or the Story So Far collection, for the first time or for the first time in a long time.
You're also doing it wrong if you're playing it in chronological order. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah. You mean like story chronological order.
Yeah, don't start with Bird by Sleep. Play it in release order.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, in that token, I feel like they're actually going to be less confused than people who have been fans and playing with a couple years apart from every game, because
they're all playing at once.
You naturally forget some things.
Right. This is why I've done it a couple of times where I've refreshed my memory by going and looking at story summary videos, especially for the games like Chain of Memories that I haven't played in a decade.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I do think to like fully answer, I guess, your original question is that I do think that there will be no comparable hype to what the new saga is compared to 3. Obviously, there have been many people waiting on 3, so hype levels are uncontrollable right now. They're through the roof. I think that seeing a new saga with brand new characters, if that's the way they go, which is what I'm going to assume they are, because didn't he say it's completely set aside from the Seeker saga?
He's said this much so far. He's not sure if this is 100% going to be Sora's last game, but he is entirely sure that every story thread
is 100% done.
Is ending in this.
It's 100%
so whether Sora goes on, even if he's in this next series, which it could just be as a cameo, right? He could be in the game without being the playable character, which would be nice.
He could be a summon.
Yeah.
Or he could be...
You could do a lot of things. You could essentially, they could pull it in kind of like they did when they, on Yu-Gi-Oh! If you watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Whenever they did Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, they had it to where he bumps into Yami Yugi on the street.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember hearing about that, but I never watched it.
And it's like, so you know about him through story stuff. So like Sora could be loosely in the game without having to be the main part. But look, this is what I'll say. I think that... I think it's easy to say that you're exhausted with a series, but obviously you're exhausted. You're exhausted with the idea of more games because your brain's so hyper focused on the fact that this is the last one and that you're just waiting for.
No, I have a complete open ability, I guess. That's not a word, but I'm completely open to there being more games.
To be fair, I'm kind of speaking specifically about Kiki. I do think that I think it's that he's really focused on the fact that he's been waiting on this one and this one has so much riding on it and we still don't know if it's going to answer all the questions or not. We hope it does, right?
Yeah, according to Nomura, it is. I find that hard to see in 40 hours.
Well, that's what I was getting at with
adding more plot to the game.
Well, that's what I was getting at with the thing of Union Cross and going through all that, which is a little unfair because it is so disjointed from the rest of the series.
It
answers a lot of questions.
That was the biggest wrong turn in the direction of my series, or in the series in my opinion.
I think only because the platform of release.
That's what I'm talking about.
If they would have started on mobile phones,
same thing where
it would have been okay. It was the fact that it was Japan exclusive on PC randomly for a long time,
and apparently has such a. I need to look at it because I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty interesting.
I know backstory because obviously it was in 2.8.
Yeah.
Or 9.
2.8.
2.8. But which is an interesting story. That's why I talk about Lushu so damn much.
Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, like I'm looking forward to 3 more than I am looking forward to a new trilogy. I really want to wrap this one up before I want to wrap my head around the idea of another trilogy.
That's what I was getting at.
Or another series.
That's what I was getting at. I think it's hard to imagine yourself getting hyped for the next series in this long-running franchise at this point because of the fact that you're so focused on the fact that you haven't even seen the end of this one. I think, honestly, if you put a good 5 years between 3 and the next game with no talk about Kingdom Hearts and just let it be a thing, and then 5 years from after this year, 2024, they go and they announce a new Kingdom Hearts completely, no leak or anything. If they can do it the right way and just show it on stage and then show you what it is, I think the hype will be back. But I will agree that to 2 points. I think it's interesting. I think for fans of the series that are longtime fans, it won't be able to match the hype of this game because this game is the penultimate end to a long-running franchise that they have a ton of questions about and a long-time investment in, whereas this is a new slate. So the hype will be different, but the upside is that people who are fans of Kingdom Hearts loosely but just couldn't get into it because it was too complicated and they just missed too much of it, this is a good part for them to get hyped because if they can hop on and actually stay with this one as it continues to expand and do what they couldn't do with the first game. And now you could say that there's ways to replay the first series, but it doesn't feel the same as constantly playing every game right around release and being like, yes, I'm in it.
It's its own feeling, but
yeah,
which is crazy because that's going to come up in terms of games on releases or in releases here in a second. Why don't you pick another one from Facebook?
Okay, let me pull over real quick. Mr. Josh Drago asks, are you guys disappointed about the new Aliens game being on mobile instead of being on the consoles? So in case you don't know what this is, the Alien game that we teased a while back, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Aliens Extinction.
Is it? I don't think it's Extinction.
Is it not?
Hold up. Alien Blackout.
I don't know where I got it.
So Blackout was teased a while back, and we thought it was going to be a sequel or another game, and what we saw Aliens do with
I'm thinking about
the franchise.
Extermination, the arcade game.
But anyway, a lot of people thought that this was going to be a console game after how well Isolation did, and sadly, it was revealed throughout the Christmas time when we weren't doing news, and it wasn't enough to just put entirely in there. But it was revealed to be a phone game. Yeah, I'm disappointed.
Really disappointed.
And I'm disappointed differently than Saul because I never played Isolation, but I could tell the inherent quality in comparison to the other Aliens game that existed.
Oh yeah, you absolutely need to.
So it's a rough loss, but you know what? I think that they're already seeing a little bit of the error in their ways. It's just so funny that so many long-running franchises are trying to make mobile entries when they
know it's negatively viewed among gamers, like the core of the gamers.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing.
But I know that they'll have the casual audience spend money on them, and of course that's why.
Aliens is a big enough franchise outside of gaming. That's actually the upside. Diablo going to mobile makes no sense because it's actually primarily a PC franchise.
Yeah.
But Aliens is a movie franchise. It's technically a multimedia franchise at this point.
And tons of the most hardcore, PC only gamers, they scoff at playing a console. Do you think they're gonna pick up their phone and play a game? No.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah. Do they not have phones? Let's see. Next up question from Twitter from my good buddy Sean. He says, "Can you guys suggest some bands or albums that you like listening to recently, or just someone you think is very noteworthy to mention?" Thank you, Sean, for the question.
Me and Saul got one we can agree on right now.
I'm talking about Tiny Moving Parts.
My boy.
Yeah.
Tiny Moving Parts.
Did you listen to the new song today?
I didn't because I've been really busy.
You messed it up. I found out.
I'm going to listen to it. Don't worry.
Apparently, it's a remake from a 2010 song.
Okay.
But it never got widely released. So only a small group of audience knows that song.
Okay. Maybe like a bonus track or a B-side?
I think it was a B-side, yeah.
Okay.
But this is also before they really had a huge audience. So this is more of a callback to the fans who had been there kind of beginning.
Yeah.
And I only found out about them in 2015, and I didn't really listen to them that much.
Well, I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth there. I think Saul would agree. Their album that they released last year, called Swell, is so good.
There's a lot of songs on there that start with W. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Wishbone, Warm Hand Splash,
Whale Watching.
Yeah, I was like, dude, there's 3. I know there's more.
Yeah.
There's so many. I caught that the other day when I was listening to that album. I'm like, this thing has a lot of W's.
It does exactly what I want an album to do. It has this perfect flow where every song is good, first of all, and it has this perfect flow where when you turn the album on all the way to the end, it sounds so cohesive.
Yeah, it's all almost. I'm going to compare it to a play at an orchestra where it has every single song or score they played in that orchestra is set there for a reason. It's in that set list as that numbered song for a reason.
Yeah, I essentially say, and I don't even mean lyrically, I think that even though lyrically there is that, but I think tonally and the fact of what they're doing and the way it's an arrangement. I love when bands not only know how to write great songs, but also know how to arrange the song so that it has the maximum emotional impact on you. And I think that album does it perfectly. It's essentially, literally just start it and then finish it, and you'll have this odd feeling if you listen to it all in one sitting. I think that's a great one. I'll throw a couple more out there. I love Meg Myers. I think I've mentioned her before on the podcast, but she has a new album out that's really good called "Take Me to the Disco," and it's more like she does rock and stuff. She doesn't really do screaming, I would say, but it's more like somewhere between what you'd think from if Trent Reznor during the With Teeth stage of Nine Inch Nails was a female. She kind of rides around that line, but she goes a little bit more poppy sometimes. But they're all so good. She's an extremely talented musician. I love her. And her other album, Sorry, is also very good. Listen to both of them.
If you're into pop punk style stuff, which I actually find myself listening to more in this current age of my life than harder stuff for some reason, which used to be the exact opposite. But there's a band called Belmont, and they have a self-titled album that came out mid last year that's very good.
Dude, I listened to that album because of that Shinigami song you showed me. It's so good.
Dude, that entire album is off-the-wall nuts. Now you got to go back and listen to Overstepping, all their old stuff, because it's just as good.
Yeah, it's very good.
But hopefully somebody in the audience has some music tastes that are similar to ours. So maybe you guys will find some solace in those answers.
Oh, I'm going to give my shout out I always have to do. Listen to Hotel Books. See if it's with you. You'll feel things. If you don't like feeling things, then you maybe shouldn't listen.
Yeah, you'll feel the urge to turn the power button off.
Saul's a hater, but that's okay.
It is okay.
Because Saul, I actually hate this argument. I was going to use the age-old argument of Saul's never written a song in his life.
That's a very prestigious. Well, I can't even speak right now.
Pretentious?
Yeah, I was going to say pretentious. I was trying to mix prestigious and pretentious up, but yeah, that's a very pretentious thing to say of you because you don't know if I have or not.
I really don't, but here's the thing. What I'll say is you've never wrote a song that has been released.
I mean, I could say the same thing about you in a book. I have a short story release. Did you know that?
Yeah, I'm proud of you if you did.
Yeah, but I really do.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I'm saying that I don't even actually believe in that argument, but I was going to use it for a second.
Go ahead and look that up.
Look what up?
No,
the next question. Okay, well, speaking of Sean, another Sean, Mr. Sean Santarud, a patron of ours, he ask, are you guys doing anything special for episode 100 of the podcast? Me and Saul are still in talks about exactly what we want to do. The one thing we know for sure is that we will be streaming in the new studio setup. So we are kind of working that out. We've been slowly having a transition, getting my computer being in here permanently. Right now I'm having to tote it between areas, sadly, because I don't have a permanent solution for in here. We've still got some things that we're wanting to finish up in the studio so that it makes doing these things even easier. So we are talking about what exactly we want to do, but the one thing that we know for sure is that we will be live streaming episodes that are special like that. How often we do those, it just depends. But yeah, we call those milestone episodes, and milestone episodes like that will always be live streamed. And we encourage anybody who listens to us to come join us live and answer, ask us questions, hang out with us while we're doing it. Those episodes are always a lot more loose than these because they're not really meant to be structured in a way. Really they're more celebratory episodes.
Well, now it's crazy because we used to not do reader mail really during those or news. Now it's really going to be kind of just like a full-on topical episode.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, because
there is no reader mail to do.
I think the way I want to do that is obviously us just have fun and chat and it be a little bit more loose structured, but also take, conversations that are happening from those who are joining us live and kind of expand on them and just go into a lot of thought about the different things that people are asking us. And, of course, we'll probably do something
kind of like an off-topic podcast.
We like to do stuff like that, though. I think we like to do giveaways, but not too often. The Christmas one was entirely my idea, so I did back that. I bought all the items and whatnot. I did not want to put that cost on Saul. I thought it was a fun idea to do, and very last minute when I realized it was the day to start it, I was like, I'm going to do it.
I was like scrolling through Twitter. I'm like, oh yeah. I didn't think we were going to do this.
Yeah,
here we are.
But I decided. So
you started on the 12th day of Christmas. Now you got to do the next 13.
Yeah. So anyway, the way that it works out, I like doing giveaways. Not even just because of the fact that, obviously the go-to thing for most podcasts and why they do giveaways is to try and entice watchers who may not have found us any other way to not only find our Twitter page or whatever page we're doing the giveaway on, but also hopefully from doing that, finding the show or deciding to give us a listen because they didn't know about us before, and then hopefully liking us. I think we have had some luck with that. I think Jason, a new listener from my understanding, and added on to the Destiny clan and everything. We actually need to find out a time when we're going to play with them.
Yeah, he joined my fire team last night as I was in the kitchen. And I happened to go over there because the way my apartment's set up. Yeah. I can see into there. So I went over there to turn my PS4 on rest mode. He's walking around me and I think he waved at me, which is greeted. I think is what it said. It said his name plus greeted me. And I'm like, oh, I better hit him in Discord and be like, I have a real bad habit of just leaving my PS4 on while I'm doing other things. And I was literally, I think on Earth, just chilling, standing in one spot. He was walking around me. I'm like, this is kind of comical. I almost wanted to pick up the controller, wave back, but I had potatoes in the oven that had to come out. So literal hot potato.
Did you hit him up on Discord at least?
No, yeah, I hit him up on Discord and be like, look, man, I'm sorry. I have this habit. I'm making potatoes and homemade chicken pot pie right now. So
yeah.
This is not the good time to be saving the universe.
Yeah, but anyway, of course, so that's one thing that we like to do. It's just a fun way to get new people into the podcast, of course, and it's just something fun to do and give people out things. I like doing it with the cases because of the fact that the cases in and of themselves act as a fun thing where I'm doing them, and of course, they're fun to do for me and they're rewarding for me to do, but I like them when we let other people out there and getting them. So
shout out to our boy Chad, who we completely forgot we were supposed to play Destiny 2 with tonight.
Oh, I thought about it just when we were talking about that, but I was like,
listen, my boy Chad, you know who you are. I'm not going to address you by username because I don't know if you want your first name out with your username, but I'm sorry, man. This right here came up.
This is why we want to record a week early.
Yeah, this was ridiculous. That I texted. I'm on vacation, so I thought today was Wednesday, and Brett texted me, and I forgot what it was. We're talking about recording something, and it came up, and he was like, "Well, we could just do Sunday instead." I'm like, oh, "Okay." And I was sitting here thinking about it this morning. I woke up. I'm like, "Wait a second."
His literal responding text to me was, "Fuck reader mail."
Yeah, I was like, "Dude, it's Thursday. We got to do this today." Brett doesn't get to work till 5, and then he had some other engagements. But anyways, let's get back on the topic at hand.
Yeah. Anyway, but so what I was going to say about the giveaways is that I just like doing them because they're fun to do. So on the $100 episode one, we'll probably figure out something we want to do as a giveaway. It's just something fun that we like to do, and it's a cool thing for us to do.
Yeah, there might be something that you get signed by us, and we might mail it to you.
Ooh, Saul's trying to get fancy over here.
Yeah, maybe y'all want our autographs because we're rich, famous,
rich,
internet.
acclaimed, and famous.
We got 100,000 views, and those are $1 a minute. The next question that we have, our good buddy Josh. He says the age-old fight between young girls back in the 90s. Who was better? NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, or 98 Degrees? First of all, 98 who? Because nobody listened to that mess of a band.
I mean, they did, but they came
at such a weird time.
They did this thing where they came too early, almost.
Backstreets.
And then were not relevant enough long enough to be able to battle Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Titans,
yeah, the two Titans.
So I'm going to go ahead and say NSYNC is better from my childhood perspective, but Backstreet Boys is a better group. Like, if that makes sense.
Honestly, if we're going to say this, me and Hannah were talking about this because, of course, like I say, I'm really not ashamed of a lie. You'd be surprised. I like what music I like.
I mean, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm still going to make fun of you regardless.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I make fun of people all the time, knowing that I maybe even listen to the band that I'm making fun of them for. I just think it's fun to mess with people. But look, in that same breath, me and Hannah were talking, and it was like we listened to a Backstreet Boys song, and then we listened to an NSYNC song, and I was like, the difference between Backstreet Boys and NSYNC is that NSYNC was really just Justin Timberlake with backup singers.
NSYNC was also, you could feel like it was more corporately written.
Oh, well, I mean, to be fair, they all were, but they were definitely leaning in different directions. NSYNC was not going as ballad heavy. They were more going like, I'm going to be as poppy as I can be in this moment, where Backstreet Boys had a lot of ballads, you know? They were trying to get in your feels, whereas Justin Timberlake was trying to get in your pants with his vocals. But my point with that said is that, like, most of the time when you're listening to NSYNC, it's 99% of the time Justin Timberlake and then a couple of backing vocals that are the other people, or maybe a small line where they're a little more out there.
I'm trying to remember their names now.
I don't know them, but look, my point I was getting to, and then you can see if you remember what you're talking about, is that when you listen to Backstreet Boys songs, they tend to be, like, I will agree, I think that they're better written from they don't feel quite as corporately written, even though I think that they obviously were. It's the point of a boy band. But I would go even further to say that I think that within the Backstreet Boys songs that you get a better breadth of each singer and getting time with each singer to where it feels like there's a reason for them to each be in the band outside of just being backup singers and dancers. So I'm going to say Backstreet Boys also because I just got a lot of partial favorites to Backstreet Boys.
I was going to say JC
Chavez?
No. Chasez?
I don't know what that is.
Chase. I got him. I actually got him confused with AJ, the guy from Backstreet Boys, because their names are just nicknames.
JC, AJ.
But I did want to throw another music related one in there from our good buddy Crash. He says, "Do you ever think the rest of Dance Gavin Dance looks at John Mess's lyrics and say, dude, these are dumb as hell?" Of course they do. And I think that's what makes so much of their band like kind of so tight knit. Because you got these kind of lyrics. By the way, y'all just go listen to Dance Gavin Dance. That's another band y'all should listen to. But pay attention to the Screamers lyrics. That's where the gold is at.
I want you to listen to very specifically. I want you to listen to Story of My Bros.
You got to go find. Which one? Isn't the one that sounds like a pop punk song in the beginning?
No, it's the I'm Smoking...
Oh, okay, that's right.
Okay, and I'm not going to go into it because I just want you to hear this ridiculous.
That is the one that sounds like a pop punk song in the very beginning. But yeah, y'all go listen to the Dance Gavin Dance and report back. But I like them because they haven't kicked them out yet. Because
look, they are great musicians. Their last few albums they've had with Tillian is a phenomenal singer. John Mess is a decent screamer.
John Mess is a good screamer.
He's monotone. Have you heard their cover of Shimmy Charm Life? His parts ruin that entire cover because they're robotic. And the thing is, he's got good form and he can scream, right? He understands the basis of how you scream, but he has no dynamics in his screaming.
I think that's just the way his style is. Like I just think that's how he goes.
It's a bad style. I don't care.
I mean, that's subjective.
Here's the thing: it works out better in their music because I think they write around it to an extent. They understand that that's his thing, so you can keep that in mind.
It depends.
But that cover is not written for their perspective and their side. He completely, dude. When Tillian was singing, when that cover first came on, I was like, "This is amazing."
Did you ever hear the Bruno Mars cover?
No. But I don't even care. My point is that as soon as John... And then the moment that cover for Semi-Charmed Life became more screaming than singing, I was like, they've completely ruined this entire song. And I'm sorry. I don't want to say... Here,
I have that song on my Spotify.
If you listen to Dance Gavin Dance and you hear that beautiful vocalist and you're like, oh my God, I want to hear more of him, go check out Tides of Man Dreamhouse album. It's amazing. Yeah. It's so much better than anything Dance Gavin Dance has ever done.
Now that's arguable.
I just want to say that to mess with.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and get another Facebook out of there.
All right. Mr. Josh Shoup asks us, have you ever had a fan base kill something for you? Games,
absolutely.
Movies, podcast, a case where you liked the product, but the fans were such dickwads that you walked away altogether.
Dude, there's been a couple times when the fan base has turned me off of products, and it's not even so much of killing it for me. It's more of turning me off from even being interested. Supernatural has like one of the worst fan bases in my opinion, because it's like 99% fan fiction, and then the other 1% is like serious people want to discuss the series. And I don't like fan fiction. Like, that's honestly, fan fiction is cool and all. And like it's cool that you do it, but some of the fan fictions I've heard for Supernatural is like, why did you do that? That's obviously you just wanting to write fantasy novels.
Yeah, it's a fan
with these characters.
It's the whole point. I mean, it's people wanting certain things to happen between characters.
Certain sexual things.
So they just do
Too many sexual things.
That's the thing that's funny about fanfic. Fanfic is almost always sexual.
Yeah. But I will say,
I would actually appreciate, because like you can talk about fanfic in general is just taking a world that's not yours and making your own stories in it. So if you wanted to go into that,
it depends on how it's done though. Because if it's done right, it's done fantastically. Fantastically, yeah.
But my example was like, okay, do you remember that long? It was the one kid or whatever, or it may be a small group, but I'm pretty sure it was one guy and then a group of people that he got to support him for like voice acting and whatnot like that made the entire, I can't remember the name of the mod, but it was like an expansion mod for Skyrim that had full voice acting, a full story, a new island, new quest, new areas, and completely, and then he got hired on a Bungie. Which was a cool
that
thing.
mod either.
But look, it was it's like
Frostfall?
It's something with an F, but I can't remember it. But essentially, look, that's essentially a fanfic. That's somebody doing what they want to within the realm of the fiction of.
It's not. That's another mod I'm thinking of. That it's called Frostfall. That's
okay.
Mod.
But anyway, so my example, that's just a great example of somebody doing good fanfic. But the fanfic that you hear about when people normally say fanfic, it's typically shipping fanfic, where they're trying to get people together and in very sexual ways, or at least sexually charged ways. Even if it's not quite sexual, they do a lot of things to try and float this little thing. And you also know that because of fan drawings. I mean, how many times have you looked up Kingdom Hearts and seen
Forgotten City for Skyrim?
Oh, okay. Anyway, but how many times have you looked up Kingdom Hearts and saw a thing where it was like Axel and Roxas
I don't want to hear it.
out?
I don't even want to hear it. Too many. That's how many. Too many.
It's bad.
But sometimes the fans for certain things, like I can't think of anything right now, but I know for sure some of the fans, like honestly, I used to be a really big fan of Rooster Teeth. Back in Red versus Blue days when they first started, going into like 2008, 9, and then when they started coming out with the Rooster Teeth podcast, before it was actually called that, it was called Drunk Tank, and it was audio only, and then they started making live actions of those. It became a full-on production. Some of the Rooster Teeth fans are some of the most disconnected fans in the world. Monty who we all know was the creator of Ruby, when he died, when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
His wife literally had to go on Twitter today to tell people, because some of the fans, one of the characters held another's hand in like a comforting way, not like a romantic way.
Yeah.
And people were saying they shouldn't be gay. And like they were screaming, Monty did not want this. That's pretty fucked up.
See, that's the problem with dying, when you're not able to complete something and it goes on because people want more of it.
Even in context, even if it was something like that, like
what a stupid thing to really complain about.
There are certain things about productions that have gone on at Rooster Teeth where I'm like, that they probably didn't want that to happen. That probably didn't want that. Like that is more of a we're going to do this for the money thing, instead of like wanting to actually do this, because you can kind of get the vibes of people when you listen to them so much, like on the podcast and stuff. You can kind of get like how they are versus sometimes how they portray themselves. And it kind of becomes a thing of like, well, who am I listening to that's real here? The person on the podcast or the person advertising this product?
And you know, I honestly think that probably some people are going to listen to that and give us flack for that. But look, here's a real thing. I mean, and this is what it comes down to. We are not there, so we obviously have a different look on it.
It's
Rooster Teeth is people who were just like us at one point.
Dude, literally in a spare bedroom like we were. But
what ends up going on is that they are multi-billion probably at this point.
I don't think it's billion.
But regardless, they're a multi-million-dollar company at this point, and they have a lot on the line, not just for themselves, but for anybody that they employ. And when that starts to happen, you do sometimes have to say things.
25 million.
You do have to say things that you may or may not believe in, or you have to not say things that you may believe in, so that you don't sit there and sometimes ruin what you have going on. It's an unfortunate thing about being in a business, is sometimes you have to disguise who you really are and fear that.
And everybody has done that to an extent. So
everybody will. I mean, that's just
everybody has put themselves and said like they saw something that they did not like, and they're like that's not how that should be. That's not what they would have wanted. And like it's a snap to reality when it's like you don't know that really.
That's the other thing. He's dead. He literally can't even tell you what he wanted.
Yeah.
Maybe in his mind before he died, he was like, I'm working on making these two characters fall in love.
The real slap is his wife being like, this is not, you don't know this is what he wanted.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't know him. Like, it put that real disconnect of like, just because you watch this show and you think you're a fan of, or because you're a fan of the show and you think you know him, you don't know this man.
Dude,
so shut up. Like, she basically said that.
Yeah, that's what's so wild about podcasts. And I would argue that it's true to an extent, but it's never that you know somebody all the way. And I think that podcasts are such a weirdly one-sided, definitely when they start to get big like that, and even TV shows, anything like that. They're all, but definitely podcasts, because you get to hear more of the person going on about things that they do or don't like, and things. You get to learn more about who they are. But what ends up happening is that people get this weird sense that they know somebody when they don't. And then they talk to them and are about them like they know them, but it's not fair because it's kind of a one-sided affair. There are people that listen to Joe Rogan so much that they feel like they know who Joe Rogan is. And I mean, I think it's fair enough to say that you probably know a lot about Joe Rogan. But when you think about it all the way through, Joe Rogan doesn't know who all these individual people are. It's impossible. I mean, a crazy amount of people can listen to him and form an opinion of who he is based off of what he said. They have no clue who he is. But it makes this weird sense where people feel like they're owed something because they feel like they know this person so personally. And Saul and I get that to an extent.
Or they think that a direction's going in a way that even the person doesn't want. And everybody, like I said that earlier, like, I don't think he would have wanted that. I wouldn't know because I don't know that man. Or woman, whoever it may come down to. Yeah. But just so the record shows, I am like, I do watch Rooster Teeth still. Like, I do, like, I got back into them after certain things have happened, which I'm sure you guys can find on Twitter if you already don't know about it. Which can maybe shed light on why I left them in the first place. But anyways, like, it's a very, like, easy thing for a fan base to mess up the product. But when you go into it with a head of, like, the fan base doesn't represent the product. But there's also that side of that where, like, I don't want to be known as a fan of that fan base. Rick and Morty is a perfect example. That is the most perfect example. You know, I watched the full first season of Rick and Morty, and then I saw all that crap going on, and then all the stuff. This was way before the sauce.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called?
The Szechuan sauce.
Szechuan. What is it called? Szechuan sauce.
The Mulan Szechuan sauce.
Yeah, so but it was before that, but even then, it was like, it amplified that there was that like, it's not something I want to be looped into.
And what's funny is that it made a joke against it. So it was literally because the whole thing is that they call it a toxic fan base, which, I mean, I get tired of everybody calling everything toxic to an extent. It gets a little, after a while, you get tired of everything being called toxic because everybody wants to blow anything to the max of what it can be. It has to be toxic. It can't just be a slightly messed up fan group. And a lot of it comes down to that vocal group because, right, I love Rick and Morty.
Exactly.
How often do you really see me going around talking about it, sharing stuff about it? I love plenty of things, but sometimes I like things and I just don't worry. So my answer to the question, real quick, is actually no. But that's because I normally don't really care about what the fan group's doing, though I do get to an extent that what it is in my mind, there's a separation between the two. I don't think that you should ever you just said it. The fans do not represent the product. They do not represent the art. So in this sense, I don't care that the Rick and Morty fans are buttholes. They are, and they made not all, obviously, but this group, definitely the ones that freaked out at McDonald's over this freaking sauce that's dumb.
Dude, it'll disconnect you. But that's when you got to take a step back and like think like this isn't the show. And like this isn't Justin Roiland, who made Rick and Morty, has no control over this.
Exactly.
Which is the thing for everything. However, I will say, that's why I went back and tried to watch Supernatural. Boy, that show got some god-awful special effects.
Oh, yeah. It's like Doctor Who.
Dude, I love Smallville. I went back and watched Smallville. I'm like, I can't watch this. That show has that. Doctor Who's another one, not so much for the fan base, but because of the special effects. Yeah, Doctor Who has a really cool premise. Yeah. Of like a story of how like
but it's got Power Rangers from the 90s special effects.
It does. It's ridiculous. But anyways, we'll answer another question real quick. We went on that tangent for a little too long there.
Yep.
Corey asks, he says, what have been your favorite PlayStation title to launch with one of the consoles? I can't answer this question. The funny thing is, I can't answer this question for any game console.
Really?
I never got a game console at launch. Ever in my life, if I got a game console at launch, except one is considered, and that's the 360. So okay. King Kong. The game was good.
Yeah, I actually, a lot of people said that, but I never played it.
So like, I really can't say that. Like the closest I ever got was the 360 The Nintendo 64, I got like when did the Nintendo 64 came out? Because I got that Christmas. No, I know that, but I'm talking about like month wise. Because
April. I actually don't know.
I was gonna say that.
Tell me. Watch it be April 96. That's gonna be funny.
I'm just gonna type in release. I'll spell it wrong because it's September. So I got it like what is that? 4 months after it came out. So 3 months.
Yeah,
3 months after it came out. I don't know why I said 4. But yeah, so I got it 3 months after it came out. The closest I got was the Switch, and that was 3 weeks after it came out.
Okay.
Because I was casually strolling through Target, and me and Annie, we were walking through.
And they were hard to get at the time.
They were very hard to get at the time, and they were worth $500 and $600 on eBay for people selling them. And I remember we walked by, and I just happened to like look over, and there was like one in there, and I flagged the guy down at Target. I'm like, "Is that a display case? Like, what is that? That's a real Switch in there?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, ring me up. Like, I'm on it right now. Which was 2 weeks after launch. I got that. I got Breath of the Wild, and I think I got Mario Kart. But yeah, so that really is the only system I ever got like real within the launch window. That and the 360.
I got the PS3 pretty close to launch, so I'm definitely going to give that one. I think one of my favorites, realistically, I mean, really, I love Resistance: Fall of Man. That's a great launch title. Technically, it was really good. It looked beautiful at the time. It was doing a lot of stuff. It was one of those games where the early PS3 days, because I would actually put MotorStorm in this realm too. The jump from PS2 to PS3 was so different than the jump from PS3 to PS4, because the jump from PS3 to PS4 was like, well, a lot of the same technical, like, or what I should say, mechanically inclined things that came from the technical aspects are the same. You're just doing it at a larger amount or in a more beautiful way. Because I mean, there's a lot of stuff I really loved in Shadowfall. But when we're going back to the PS3, jumping from the PS2, which did not have the same stuff, like a couple of games got close. Like EA's Black got pretty close to being able to shoot between rails and stuff.
That wasn't a released game, was it?
Yeah. That was a no. Sorry, I get what you mean. No, that game came late PS2.
Right.
But my point is that the jump from PS2 to PS3,
yeah,
the PS2 had the closest thing that it got to being somewhat next gen by doing things that you expected on the PS3 once you started playing it. It got kind of close. But the thing I loved about Resistance is that, and MotorStorm, actually, I'll go ahead and throw MotorStorm in there. The technological jump of not only the cool lore there's a number of things I love about the Resistance franchise. I like going back to a time period that I normally think is overused in games. Even at the time that it came out, it was already being overused from the PS2. It went back to World War II and said, well, how do we make a World War II game that isn't just more of the same crap? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make an alternate history game. World War II is going on, and instead of us finishing that out, an invasion's going to happen, and we're going to be dealing with aliens, which means our tech gets bumped up from the fact that we're killing aliens sometimes, getting their weapons, understanding how they work, and trying to, reverse engineer things around so that we can stand a chance against these creatures. So it gave you great, fun weapons and a cool world that had sci-fi stuff. But from a gameplay perspective, the way that made it feel so amazing and like really, like, I can't believe this is a launch title doing this much to convince me on this system. It was mechanically whenever the Chimera are running around, they're hybrids. The ones that we never saw a pure Chimera in the whole series. It's actually a shame. But when they were running around, the first game you could shoot their heat stacks, which was on their back because it was made to pull off. They could heal a lot quicker because they're. What is it? Whenever their metabolism was so amped up that it made them made them hot. So to relieve some of that heat, they had these heat stacks put on them. You could shoot the heat stacks, which would make them overheat and blow up. That was fun. Another thing you could do, if you didn't want to do that, if you really wanted to play it out and just be like, well, this is cool. It's not necessary by any standard, but it was really cool. They had hoses that were like NO2 hoses that would move stuff throughout the heat stack, right? You could shoot the hoses and they would bust open and start leaking air. And if you shot all of them, it would shut off and it would make them blow up that way. And it was like, this is so amazing at how detailed this game is in a time period where you're coming from PS2 where that detail just wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And then the same thing was true of MotorStorm when you're racing and like you wreck the person beside you.
Was MotorStorm a release date?
Yeah. Launch title as well.
Launch title.
And so you could like literally ram it. It was the first game I had for the system as well. But you could literally ram into somebody and then pause it, and then you could swing the camera around to see what parts were flying away and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
And what I loved about it is that like at the time, again, you're used to playing PS2 games with racing and like the damage and stuff wasn't that real. This game, you get in there, you wreck into this person, you pause it, and you look and you see their axle fly off, their hubcaps flying off, the wheels over here, bolts are flying around, and you're like, what is this crazy level of detail that you only saw at the beginning of that generation when everybody was trying to prove their tech? You remember Far Cry 2?
Yeah.
Far Cry 2 had stuff in it that we haven't seen in the franchise since. Cutting trees in half with your gun, cutting even small branches off. Ridiculous.
Didn't they have like really cool wall destruction too?
Yeah.
Because I know Battlefield Bad Company had some amazing wall destruction and stuff.
But that's what I mean. It's one of those games where everybody was trying to go against Crysis, you know? And Crysis had so much stuff that was like, oh, we're being simulation. So we're going to do a lot of simulation stuff on here. And it was just a cool time period in games. But PSP real quick will be my last one, and I go to it all the time. Nothing matches the time period and the fact that I love the game so much. The Untold Legends Brotherhood of the Blade was a launch title for PSP that I immensely enjoyed.
So speaking of this, in kind of the same vein, our good buddy Enrique says, so gaming has evolved tremendously graphics-wise, and we have voice acting now, motion capture, and we've even reached VR gaming. What do you guys think will be the next big gaming evolution? More expansive and detailed game engines. More detailed, like, and I mean by that in terms of like
its ability to handle expansive and detailed worlds.
When it rains in GTA 5, it just rains. But there will be spots in GTA 5 where clouds are darker and it's raining harder. And lightning is more prominent over there, and there may be hail over there, but not across the map.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's truly like little features,
isolated weather, stuff like that.
And then like you'll see puddles rise up and stuff in areas with heavy rain, and if it's downhill, it'll actually drain. You could see it go out in the street, which can affect driving, or you could see it go into a drain, which is if it's drained properly. Stuff like that. That's the future for right now. No more resolutions. No.
Here's the thing about that though. Those are things that are really, really expensive to do because it takes a lot of crazy hard work to do.
Yeah, it's
so I think the tip top of games you'll see do stuff like
time
that.
And money, like.
But that's the reason you don't still see it. Like Far Cry 2 did it, and then it didn't really gain anything because of it. Far Cry 3 came out and didn't have any of that stuff.
We're going to hit the power ceiling that I've talked about a lot, where it's going to be 60 frames, 4K. Which
sure, but it's still about the man hours it takes to set up simulations that are going to run like that.
Oh, dude, that's just going to be the nature that comes with next-gen gaming. As gaming keeps going by and by, it's not just going to get more prettier.
I don't think so.
It's going to run better.
I mean, I get what he's saying.
Attention to detail.
I honestly think that there's no real way for us to know because there's so many things that are going wild that I think honestly, if you want to say what the next big thing in gaming is going to be, it's realistically probably going to be streaming, which doesn't sound like a big thing in gaming. And yeah, we're doing it to an extent right now.
But look at Red Dead. And I know Red Dead took forever to develop, but like you could honestly tell me like 5 years from now, if I wasn't in the games and I played Red Dead, you could tell me, hey, this is an early, like this generation game. And I would probably believe you. Like you could tell me Red Dead is an early next gen game. I would believe you. Like that game could launch on next gen. Of course, it needs to look a little bit prettier. Sure. Maybe have a little bit more performance fixes. But yeah, like I would fully believe you. And there's a lot of attention to detail in that game.
Yeah, but I just feel like the power ceiling is one thing. Realistically, we all know that that everybody spends a lot of time, including us. I mean, gorgeous graphics or gorgeous art style, one way or the other, because they don't make the entire game. Yeah, you can eventually, when you're pushing for this realism, you can hit a power cap eventually, which I don't know if we'll ever really hit it, but you'll hit diminishing returns to a point where you don't feel like it's worth trying to push the tech anymore. I don't know how close we are to that, to be honest, but what I was getting at is that realistically, games do a lot to be beautiful in ways that, like one example of a game that I thought was just really beautiful was sadly the Forgotten Key, which is the developer is closing down, but that Air Memories of Old game had a great art style and it looked beautiful, and I really enjoyed the way that it looked and it performed fine. And I think that honestly, trying to figure, I think that you can always go towards the power route, and of course there's always going to be those big budget games, but I think that the day-to-day, I mean, yeah, we're getting more AAA games than ever, but we're still in that weird window where a lot of the year is really padded out by a lot of great indie games and mid-tier games, and I think that those are obviously not going to be able to hit that power ceiling and use it in the same way. So I don't really want to use that as the next thing. And that's also kind of the obvious evolution. I don't necessarily know that everybody thought that VR was going to come back the way it did, because VR technically existed with Nintendo back with they've done VR to an extent. Nobody thought it was going to come back like this, and everybody thought it was going to be dead by now.
VR was a thing in the early 90s too in malls. Like, people don't remember that, but there used to be these mall kiosk gaming like sensors, like kind of like you see now, like the Ferris rides and stuff.
And like everybody remembers the Disney movie Blank Check when he had that VR unit in his mansion that he bought.
Oh, he did have one of those, didn't he? Yeah. I was more obsessed with what was in that mansion that was really cool. It was something big.
I don't remember.
Dude, that was a good movie. If y'all have never seen Blank Check, you need to go see it.
But I remember
right
the
now.
VR section vividly, because I was like, what? Because you're young, or I was. I mean, you were too, I guess.
Did he use it in the mall?
No, he was in his house playing.
But I'm saying, like, at any point in the movie, did he use it in the mall?
I don't think so.
I was thinking of a movie in my mind that's old, like that movie.
Yeah,
I was like, I remember seeing that in a movie.
But I remember being in his mansion, and I was freaking out. In my mind, I was like,
oh, you're talking about the big screen.
If you have enough money, you can do this. No, but he had the goggles on and everything, and hands, and he was punching. It honestly could have been a virtual boy. I was too young to even know, but I thought
it was not a virtual boy.
In my mind, I was like, he's playing a game with that, and this is amazing. But nobody would have necessarily thought that would have come back around. Random people that we can't even expect drive those things forward. So I think streaming is the safe answer to an extent, even though it's not a big way that changes how games are played.
I rewatched Blank Check, and my childhood is ruined.
Oh, anyway, my point being is I don't know. I don't think anybody could have, I don't think anybody can say what the next big thing on the internet's going to be. I don't think everybody predicted it was going to be social media. I mean, you can predict a number of things, but there will obviously be something that comes along that changes the way we play games. And until then, I mean, it may be AR, because right now VR is the bigger of the two. AR may mature to a point where
I want to see
amazing.
VR get better. I don't know if it will or not.
Yeah.
I keep saying it won't, but now I'm like, maybe it will. I don't know. Technology is weird and it fluctuates. What about a question on Facebook? Are we done?
Hold up. I think I did something weird. Oh, here we are. Well, it's technically one that we've already answered by nature, but Mr. Vincent Hull asks, since Bungie has split from Activision, what are some changes that you predict for Destiny?
Howdy, partner. Go check out episode 94 of Triangle Squared. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, we've already handled that. And for anybody that did not see in the last reader mail or the episode before when Saul said howdy real under his breath and tipped his hat.
Yeah, it was last episode. Yeah, you got to go find it. Brent didn't even notice I did it. He was sitting next to me.
It was hilarious when we found it.
But yeah, like we basically were both cautiously excited now that we actually can blame Bungie as well. We're excited to see what they can do. Most influential video game of all time to both of you, Josh Shoop.
Ooh.
This is kind of easy, for me at least.
Most influential game?
Mm-hmm.
Mario.
No.
He influenced the gaming world coming back from its decline. But go ahead. What was yours? What's your easy answer?
Mine's more influential for me, not for.
Okay. I'm thinking. I guess influential. Yeah. Okay. I guess it depends on what you mean by question.
It helped influence me play more games that I wouldn't have played, or play more types of games.
Sure.
And that's A Link to the Past.
See, honestly, one of the first things I said, but that was also influential to the industry, is what my mind was thinking.
Yeah. But
and that answer is good for both.
For me, yeah. For me specifically, like that was the first game I got to play where I was like, oh, I can use a sword to shield and a boomerang. Sign me up. And then I was like, more games do this. It's actually funny because I actually bought Golden Sword on Game Boy Advance, or Golden Sun on Game Boy Advance, because it reminded me, even though inherently they're very different games, but it reminded me so much of A Link to the Past. That's why I got it. And like I was like, this is I got it from the box art. Like, you know, when you're a kid and you don't have internet, it's like, that game looks cool. It's called Golden Sun.
And it looks enough like Zelda from the art that
it looked enough like a game I was familiar with. And I was like, I'll get it. And that was a good decision.
I'm gonna go. If we're talking about influential to us, I think I'd be remiss to say that it wasn't either. I'm not even. You know what? I could say Crash Bandicoot, but I'm honestly gonna say Kingdom Hearts, and I think that's because Kingdom Hearts was a segue into serious gaming for me for a lot, and games that are a lot longer than I was used to playing. At the times that I started them, it got me into action games because it had action elements. It got me into RPG games because it had RPG elements. It got me into Japanese games because it was Japanese. I think that, I played other things before it, but I did not understand them all the time, like all the way through. So like I played Final Fantasy IX before Kingdom Hearts, but I didn't understand a lot about it, and I didn't beat it. I just played it. I went back after Kingdom Hearts 1 and played Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 4 and 5 and 6. I don't think I played 1, 2, or 3 at all.
I was gonna say I don't think I played through all the way through 6. I mean, you got to fix that.
But anyway, so it gave me a love for things that I still love to this day and that influence my purchases and my hype levels for different things this day. Of course, the fact that I'm hyped for Kingdom Hearts 3. But if I want to say to the industry, that's a really hard question. I mean, I think my Mario answer may actually be pretty legit. It's a literally...
Mario saved the industry.
Yeah, it was influential in the fact that it came out, did well, and then it got people back into trying to make games for a home market, and in a way that wasn't just trying to be a cash shill out. It wasn't trying to be shovelware.
If Mario never did what it did, I don't know if we would have video games today. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about. It created a massive chain of events that created the industry that we are in right now today. So kudos to you, little plumber.
But if I wanted to say
boy.
another one, I'm gonna give a slightly different answer. So if I want to say one that I think has been influential to a lot of people from the way they look at games and the way that they go about making their own games, I want to say I think Ico or Shadow of the Colossus are both. Hold on, hear me out as to why.
You said to a lot of people, and Ico is a very unheard of game. In a way.
No, what I mean is industry wide.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about more like from an emotional standpoint. If
you want to say for me, yes, I think Ico and Shadow of the Colossus are both amazing.
But like, if you like, it's not a very. Maybe it is now.
But when I say it's like the way that developers look at why they're making their game, I think changed for a lot of people when they played Ico, and they realized, because you got to think of that beforehand, a lot of people did not really make story-driven games. They made games that were more about, well, how exactly does this game play, and then we'll put a story that kind of helps facilitate the playing that we're wanting to happen. Whereas that's a game that's like, well, you're not really worried about killing anything. There's no real enemy. There's just people. There's enemies, but you can't really do anything about them. You're just trying to protect yourself and this girl. And it was more about how can we make this game resonate with you on an emotional level. And I think that there's something to be said about the game doing that in an extent. You can say other games tried, but they always also had gameplay to fall back on. So I think that having a front focus thing of what we're going to do is make a game that has very, very limited mechanics that you're going to understand and you're going to be able to do stuff with them that is rewarding, but it's more about understanding the way the game and its mechanics and everything tie together to make an emotional resonance with you. And I think that people took that and then carried that forward to make their own games. That's why you see a lot of games using the Ico style. And some games try and use the Shadow of the Colossus, but Ico's more the footprint that a lot of people use, because you saw it with Rhyme. I'd even say Air Memories of Old is a game that's very disconnected from combat. It's really more a game about moving through a series of events and understanding how they're affecting the people around you.
It's a very, like, I don't want to say popular, but it's a very common theme or trope that are in indie games nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is that there's a lot of games that are made around that thing of, what are we going to do? We're going to make a game that's more focused on having an experience with the game, and that's it.
Yeah.
Not the gameplay. And you're going to talk about it with people for different reasons. You're not going to go around and be like, dude, I did this sick kick flip, back flip, whatever, and then I killed this guy this way, and that way. What did you do? I think it's more about like, oh my God, guys. And what I like about it as well is that it's the same experience for everybody.
Yeah.
But everybody interprets it differently.
Yeah.
So it's like you can all talk about the exact events that happened, but everybody has this incredibly different take on them. And I think that was important to the way game makers wanted to, and I think that you could see people who are inspired to make games that resonate with you more than just because they played well.
Yeah, I can agree to that. Let's see. Is this our last question, or do we have one more over there?
I think that we're out on Facebook from the 7th.
So we have our last question up from our buddy World End on both Discord and on YouTube. He says, how far would a main character have to go in a game to be too far for you? Let's say a character that you actually like. You like the personality, the design, and you see his motivation of why he might do some controversial things. Even with all of that, is there a limit that he can do? Is there a limit to what he could do that would cause you to dislike the character so much you could even drop the game? Probably not. Unless it's like some kind of weird far left field direction that was very very surprising. I can't even think of like an example of this though.
I can't think of an example in my mind, and I think that's why he's using this as a I can't think of it right now, the word you use for it, but it's not saying that it's actually existing and that there is one, but if it was going to happen, what do you think it would be?
Well, he actually gave an example of Batman and Arkham Knight with the Alfred dilemma.
And Arkham Knight?
Yeah, maybe it's Arkham. That's not Arkham City, is it?
Arkham Origins, maybe?
I can go look on YouTube. I assume he's talking about the end thing in Arkham Knight.
Maybe. But look, what I'm going to say is, I don't think so. I don't think that there's anything that can happen that would make me be because of a character that I like already going through, or even a character I don't like, because there's times where characters just aren't well written. But I think if you have a character, there's times where characters do things that I don't agree with that I still move through because I'm trying to understand why they did it, or you put yourself in their shoe and try and understand why they did it. I think it depends on how you look at games. I don't tend to look at games as me doing things through people unless the game is having me do them.
Oh, he says one example for me is Batman Arkham City, where he had to be blackmailed by Alfred and Oracle to save 1,000 people instead of saving one criminal.
Yes, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
And that was because of Talia.
Fun fact, did you know that there's actually a scenario that's done in psychology that is related to Batman and the Joker? And the Joker has a minecart, and it's on... one, and it could fork off to two. And at each fork, there's one person or a family of people. You're killing a family of people, or you're killing one person. Who do you kill? That's actually like a thing done in psychology. Yeah. That's a test. And there's a name for that kind of test. But people often use Batman and Joker as that test because Batman is known to be the one to not kill anybody.
Yeah.
So do you not touch it? Because technically you did not kill them. Joker did. Because then the second you take action, you were responsible for that action.
True.
So... that one's kind of weird for me, but honestly, I'm going back through games that I've played where a character was just doing 100% everything that I was like rooting for, or not even rooting for, but understanding, and then flipped. And it's very, very hard for me. There's a couple movies where that happened in, but as a game,
well, look,
I don't think so.
I'm not going to say what it is, but one that I think a lot of people were like kind of weird about. But most people, I think, sided on the fact that they understood it, whether or not they agreed with it. The ending of The Last of Us, right? What Joel does...
yeah, that's not out of his character, though.
It's exactly, but it's not out of character, but it is a crazy thing for... because Joel is likable, even in the moments where he's kind of treating her like crap, because you understand why. Everything that he does that goes against what you would necessarily agree with, you always have this weird thing where you're like, I begrudgingly kind of understand where he's coming from.
No, yeah, like it's one of those things, like, I feel like his question is tailoring towards, like, is there an action or something they can do to make you drop the game or dislike
and
the
I'm going to
character?
use his example, right? And we've talked about this before and how he feels like it's out of character for Batman to try and go towards Talia when there's these thousands of people that could die if he goes towards her.
It's the history.
But this is what I'm going to say too, and that's why I told him I agree with it. I don't think it's out of thing because, and if I recall right, I think his argument was that it doesn't matter. He's Batman, regardless of the fact that he's human. He knows he's supposed to be more. But what I liked about it is that in the game when it's talking about that, it actually it shows why. To me, it shows why a superhero needs a team of people who understand what the point of his mission is, so that whenever he naturally handles things in a human-like way, which this is a human-like way, when something happens that you have an emotional investment in, sometimes you can't control yourself and you're going to act in a rash way that is not really logical or with your normal way of thinking, but it's because you're doing it because it's something you care about so much that you're letting go of all your inhibitions to try and go after it. So him having this group of people behind him to actually sit there and go, Bruce, this is not who you are. This is not what you do. This is not Batman's mission. This is not what people expect when they think about Batman. Batman's a symbol of hope. You've got to stick with this or you're going to let these people down. That's not blackmailing, in my opinion, though I do get what you mean by it. I think that it's a moment to show you that humans can even be human or human superheroes can even be human in moment, in that they need that group of people behind them. So I don't consider that an act where it's like Batman gonna go and try and save her instead of saving 1,000 people as an act where it's so bad that it makes me not like him in that game anymore. I actually thought of that as a real sobering moment of like, this is exactly what a superhero game needs.
Yeah, it's a flaw that he has.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Expanded upon.
And you need that because that whole game is full of him.
I don't remember that though.
I've recently replayed through it, so that's why I remember it so well.
I really need to play through City or Night again.
But definitely, whenever I replayed it, I was like, man, I feel that like this is a great moment, and I feel like you need it across the board. I mean, I think that it makes more sense to do things in that way. I think the same could be said of Spider-Man, and Spider-Man knowing that MJ's around, and there's when someone else knows, there's somebody to be accountable.
Does my playthrough of Detroit count with Connor?
Technically, you made the decision.
I know, that's why I shouldn't count, but that was dumb.
See, and now that's the other part that's weird about this question. I mean, I guess my answer is no. I cannot see a situation where there's a character that I like, that something happens, and I immediately hate him. And what's funny is that I tend to think that if you write a character well, even characters that are meant to, or even characters that do things that are obviously supposed to be dislikable, you can find ways to make them likable. This is like a short thing. I haven't watched it yet, but somebody was talking about this new show on Netflix called You, which is about a stalker. And they said that the show spends a lot of time actually setting up the guy who is the stalker to be likable. And I thought that's exactly what you want to do.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you want to do.
That's good filmmaking.
And the thing is, he's still doing something that's awful.
Yeah. And there's plenty of, like, have you ever watched A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of a video game, I can't really think of one.
But that's all I can get to with Connor real quick. I'll finish that, and maybe it'll lead you towards something that you were going to say. But
I was going to say, I don't include that game at all because that's all done by my actions.
Exactly. That's what's so weird about gaming is sometimes characters are written, and technically all of his actions are written. They're all just multiple paths you can take.
I think he's specifically talking about a predestined path that you cannot change.
I want to say no, but I like the question. I just genuinely can't think of something that would shake me because I try to look at the depth of what's going on with the character. I mean, I think there's a difference between a poorly written character. Now, when there's a character that has something happen because of just bad writing, that's different and that's less excusable. But when it's something that's well written, but an action that happens, and you could say that the Batman thing is bad writing because it goes against who Batman is, but I think that we view the intent of that moment differently. And that's just one of those things where perceptions, like we said.
Maybe Cortana and Halo. The whole like little thing going on with her in Halo 5. Like being trashed as an AI and everything.
Yeah.
That might count. Why don't you guys let us know in the comments below, though? Like, let us know in the comments. Let us know on our Discord. Let us know on our Twitter, at our Facebook group. And we thank you guys for tuning in. And be sure that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and for those people always active in YouTube, always ask us questions. And you'll hear them answered on the show just like this one. And once again, we apologize for the Facebook questions that are getting left out of this one, but they're getting left out for good reason.
And they will be answered.
They are being answered. So fear not, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you.